You may drive around or under a gate that is being lowered or raised at a railroad crossing. A. As long as an approaching train is not too close. B. If your vehicle can do so without damaging the gate. C. If you first look carefully in both directions. D. Under no circumstances. When passing other vehicles. A. Check your mirrors and blind spots. B. Honk your horn at least 3 times. C. Re-enter your lane within 10 feet of the passed vehicle. D. There is no need to signal. A. Check your mirrors and blind spots. Before passing another vehicle, check your mirrors and blind spots. Before changing lanes, activate the appropriate turn signal. Re-enter the lane when you can see the front of the passed vehicle in your rearview mirror. You are driving in the left lane and want to move into the right lane. You should A. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over your left shoulder for other vehicles before changing lanes. B. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over your right shoulder for other vehicles before changing lanes. C. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over both shoulders for other vehicles before changing lanes. D. Check your mirrors, signal, and change lanes. B. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over your right shoulder for other vehicles before changing lanes. When changing lanes, you should check your vehicle's blind spots by looking over your shoulder in the direction that you want to move. Always check your mirrors and turn on your directional signal before beginning a lane change. If you fail the driving test 3 times, A. The examiner will give you a driving skills examination report. B. You must send your examination report to the Department of Revenue. C. The Department of Revenue will require driver training. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. If you fail the driving test 3 times, no further tests will be allowed without written authorization from the Department of Revenue. The examiner will give you a form that you must send to the department. After you send the form to the department, you will receive a letter from the department requiring additional behind-the-wheel driver training.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
When you approach a railroad crossing without flashing warning signals or crossing gates, you should A. Cross the tracks immediately and as quickly as possible. B. Always stop before crossing the tracks. C. Prepare to yield to any train at the crossing. D. Speed up to beat any oncoming train. C. Prepare to yield to any train at the crossing. Always be prepared to yield to any oncoming trains before crossing railroad tracks, particularly if there are no lights or gates controlling the crossing. Never start to cross the tracks until there is room for your entire vehicle on the other side of the tracks. Due to the risk of a vehicle stalling, it is not wise to shift gears when crossing railroad tracks. Which of the following best ensures your safety and the safety of those around you when you are backing your vehicle? A. Honk your horn right before shifting into reverse. B. Check behind the vehicle before you get into the driver's seat. C. Check your rearview mirrors to see what is behind you. D. Turn up the car radio before backing up to get the attention of anyone who may be around you. B. Check behind the vehicle before you get into the driver's seat. Backing requires extra caution because it is difficult for drivers to see behind their vehicles. Before entering a vehicle to back up, walk to the back of the vehicle to check for children and small objects. A double solid yellow line down the center of a two-lane road indicates A. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. B. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. A bicyclist who doesn't obey traffic laws? A. Is in the right because bicyclists don't have to obey traffic laws. B. Can be ticketed. C. Will always receive a warning from law enforcement. D. Will have their bicycle impounded. B. Can be ticketed. All bicyclists have the same rights, duties, and responsibilities as drivers of motor vehicles. Motorists and bicyclists who do not obey traffic laws can be ticketed. An inattentive driver is a driver who A. Stares at objects off the roadway or daydreams while driving. B. Maintains eye contact during a conversation with a passenger while driving. C. Only watches the vehicle ahead of their vehicle. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Do not become distracted by looking at passengers, attempting to find something in your vehicle, looking at reading material, sightseeing, or daydreaming while driving. Continue scanning the road, checking your mirrors, and looking at the instrument panel at regular intervals. Developing these safe habits will keep you attentive as a driver. The most common color of warning signs is A. Red. B. Yellow. C. Green. D. Blue. B. Yellow. Most warning signs are diamond-shaped and yellow with black markings. These signs warn drivers about unexpected conditions that may not be readily apparent. Night driving can be more difficult than driving during the day because A. Cars overheat more quickly at night. B. Visibility is reduced in the dark. C. It is more likely to be raining at night. D. You are more likely to encounter a motorcycle at night. B. Visibility is reduced in the dark. At night, your field of vision is reduced. To make sure you are able to react to hazards on the roadway, always use appropriate headlights. Drive slowly enough that you are able to stop within the distance that you can see ahead. What might happen when alcohol is combined with another drug? A. The effects of the alcohol and the drug may both be increased. B. Nothing will happen. C. The effects of the alcohol and the drug may both be reduced. D. The effects of only the alcohol may be reduced. A. The effects of the alcohol and the drug may both be increased. Consuming both alcohol and another drug may enhance the effects of both. For example, taking one drink when you are also using a cold remedy could affect you as if you have had several drinks. Look over your shoulder to check your blind spot when A. Pulling toward or away from a curb. B. Turning left or right. C. Changing lanes. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Look over your shoulder to check your blind spot every time you want to change your vehicle's position. If you are turning, changing lanes, or pulling toward or away from a curb, you should check your blind spots. When driving on an interstate. A. Stop on the shoulder of the road if you are tired. B. You should always use cruise control. C. Signal, check mirrors, and check blind spots before changing lanes. D. You should change lanes often. C. Signal, check mirrors, and check blind spots before changing lanes. Signal, check your mirrors, and check your blind spot before changing lanes or passing on an interstate. Only stop on the shoulder of the interstate in the case of an emergency and change lanes as infrequently as possible. Cruise control should not be used in heavy traffic or under poor weather conditions. This road sign means A. Roundabout ahead. B. No passing zone. C. Left turn yield on green. D. Traffic signal ahead. D. Traffic signal ahead. This sign means that a traffic signal is ahead. You should slow down and be prepared to stop. You are driving on the roadway and hear a siren behind you. You should A. Stop where you are. B. Pull over to the right and stop. C. Speed up to get out of the way. D. Slow down. B. Pull over to the right and stop. When you hear the siren or see the flashing lights of an emergency vehicle coming from behind your vehicle, you must create a clear path for the emergency vehicle and stop. Reduce your speed and safely pull over to the side of the road. If the emergency vehicle is directly behind your vehicle when you are in heavy traffic, keep moving slowly until you can get out of its way. When making a right or left turn, a driver should signal. Fill in the blank in advance of the turn. A. 100 feet. B. 50 feet. C. 35 feet. D. 10 feet. A. 100 feet. Before you change lanes or make a turn, let other drivers know what you are going to do by signaling. You can signal with your hand and arm or with your vehicle's turn signals and brake lights. You should signal at least 100 feet before you change lanes or turn so the other drivers can be ready to react to your movements. Certain highway signs contain information about hazardous conditions. Such signs are known as A. Regulatory signs. B. Warning signs. C. Information signs. D. Guide signs. B. Warning signs. Warning signs advise drivers of potentially hazardous conditions. For your own safety, obey warning signs. Disregarding the information provided by a warning sign may result in an accident due to your negligence. Don't follow other cars too closely because A. You may not see the road between the cars. B. You may not have time to stop if the vehicle in front of you slows or stops suddenly. C. You may not see the vehicle's turn signals. D. You may not see the other vehicle's brake lights. B. You may not have time to stop if the vehicle in front of you slows or stops suddenly. If you follow too closely and the vehicle in front of you slows or stops suddenly, you may not have enough time to avoid a collision. Hydroplaning is usually caused by A. Excessive stops. B. Sudden stops. C. Sudden turns. D. Excessive speed. What are the colors of warning signs indicating upcoming hazards? A. Black letters or symbols on a white background. B. Black letters or symbols on a yellow background. C. White letters or symbols on a blue background. D. White letters or symbols on a green background. B. Black letters or symbols on a yellow background. Warning signs that indicate approaching hazards are usually yellow with black lettering or symbols. Warning signs in work zones are orange with black lettering or symbols. For a driver with an intermediate license, driving restrictions include: A. That a seat belt must be worn by the driver. B. That seat belts must be worn by all passengers. C. A curfew between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Young drivers with an intermediate license may not drive alone between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., except to and from a school activity or job, or in an emergency. Seat belts must be worn by the driver and all passengers. An approaching driver fails to dim their high-beam headlights. Where should you look? A. At the wheels of the approaching vehicle. B. Toward the right side of the road. C. Toward the left side of the road. D. Straight down the middle of the road. B. Toward the right side of the road. If an approaching driver fails to dim their high beams, glance toward the right side of the road. This will keep you from being blinded by the other vehicle's headlights and will allow you to see enough of the road to stay on course until the other vehicle has passed. What is the appropriate action to take when approaching a railroad crossing that does not have signals to direct traffic? A. Always bring the car to a complete stop. B. Slow down and be prepared to stop. C. All railroad crossings have signals, so you will never encounter this situation. D. Increase your speed to get across the tracks quickly. B. Slow down and be prepared to stop. When approaching an unmarked railroad crossing, slow down and be prepared to stop. Before you cross, be sure that no trains are approaching from either direction on any track. If you see or hear a train coming, stop at a safe distance from the nearest track and wait to proceed until after the train passes. Drivers may not pass from either side of a fill in the blank centerline. A. Combination solid and broken yellow. B. Single broken yellow. C. Double solid yellow. D. Single broken white.